Hi, chess fans. This is John Hendrick. Welcome to my memorable games series. This is the first game in the series, probably my most memorable game of all time. I was 14 years old, 1522 USCF rated player, playing 2780 FIDE player, Anatoly Karpov, ex world champion at the time in 1994. It was also the year he had a super performance in Linares, Spain, and he wiped out everybody with a 2900 performance rating, even ahead of Kasparov in that year. That's the year I played him. One of my friends at the time in middle school chess, in the same chess club, he won first place middle school championship. I won third or fourth that year, and shout out to Grant Sitta who drew Karpov in that event. So very good achievement. He was playing the French defense. And my mentor from back in the day, women's international master Alexey Root, is going to write an article soon about that. I will put the article in the description. Um, so, without further ado, here's my game against Anatoly Karpov. And oh, one last thing. I'm 41 years old and my rating is 2181. I've been 2100 like for 15 years, so I'm excited to get to 2200 and reach beyond Chessmaster and definitely go beyond maybe a lifetime goal of B-Day Master or even higher. So yes, so this is my game with Karpov, and let me give you a background. I was extremely excited to play Anatoly Karpov. This was a charity Simul. My dad wasn't able to donate the $500 required. However, the organizers were still nice, and at the last minute they let me play in the Simul for only $100 donation from my dad. I was happy to see Karpov, just see Karpov, but I couldn't believe I was actually going to play him too. In the game, Karpov played d4. He was mostly a d4 player at this time. Earlier in his career, he played e4. I played knight f6, and Karpov played c4, the queen's gambit formation, these two pawns. Even if the black pawn was here instead of the knight being here, we'd still call this the queen's gambit formation. And this is the Indian defense right here, Indian defense. And then after g6, I played knight c3. Sorry, Karpov played knight c3. I played g6. I'm used to seeing it from the other point of view, but yes, this is me playing black, and this is the start of a Grunfeld or a King's Indian defense. Bishop g7, e4, and d6. And this is no longer a Grunfeld. If you wanted to play the Grunfeld, you would have to play, you would not play bishop g7, you would play d5, and this is the Grunfeld. Another popular opening these days, and it was even back in the 70s, it was becoming popular. Bobby Fischer actually played this, world champion Bobby Fischer played this back in the early 70s. But he also played, and Bobby Fischer also played the King's Indian defense. Maybe that was my inspiration, I'm not sure, but that was an opening I played. I don't play it anymore these days. Maybe eventually once I make Master and beyond, I'll incorporate the King's Indian defense again. d6, f3, the same-ish variation. Very aggressive by Karpov. You want to play bishop e3, queen d2, castle queenside, and just start marching the pawns up and break open this fianchettoed formation, this triangle formation with the fianchettoed bishop. And you want to just break that open. I castled, Karpov played bishop e3, knight bd7, queen d2, e5, knight ge2, and we're both developing our pieces. I already castled. Rook e8, I gave it a dubious, the computer thinks it's dubious as well. Anyway, the engine also thinks it's dubious because it just kind of wastes time. Typically in these types of positions, black will capture and maybe play rook e8, and now the rook makes sense because it has a half open file. So Karpov, very timely, he closes the position with d5 and has that beautiful Petrosian-like center. Tigran Petrosian was a big advocate of playing early d5 versus the King's Indian defense structures. Knight f8 comes. Knight c5 to anchor the knight. You would want to anchor the knight and stop the b4 move, but white just plays b4. It only helps white expand on the queen side, which is white's goal. Castle's queenside from Karpov. I wasn't expecting that. I thought he was castle kingside. I had no idea about this, that he was about to go for this attack. So it was pretty intimidating for this, you know. And then I played just developing my bishop. That's why I played knight f8. It was to develop my bishop finally. And king b1. Often when you castle queenside, king b1 is a good safety measure. It's safer, not all the way in the corner usually, but right here on the b file or the g file. And after king b1, I played a6, going for some kind of pawn breaks to break open Karpov and attack his king. Break open Karpov's structure on the queen side. Karpov plays knight c1. I played rook b8, going for that pawn move, and Karpov plays c5. Before I even have a chance to lash out at him, he lashes out at my center, and possibly once the knight gets out of the way, he can control the c file with his rooks. I take, he takes, and now this knight can't go anywhere. So what am I going to do? I decide to try to break open the center of the board and get some liberation for my pieces and break open his mighty center. Karpov was prepared. He played this move, and I took back with the bishop. Taking with the pawn, gambiting this pawn was probably out of the question, and my pawn structure is still bad. So I took back with the bishop, and Karpov goes to f2, and he's about to play bishop e6 and block my b5 expansion, so just shutting me down on the side of the board, and also attacking my queen. So I moved my queen over out of the way. I didn't want to get my queen pinned. But I might think about blocking this way and just being more flexible. Maybe my queen wants to go this way. Maybe it wants to go this way or this way. And, you know, and also the knight's going to prepare to come into the outpost. So maybe nowadays I would have considered blocking first. This commits my queen, and he plays bishop b6, d6, attacking my rook. I have to move my rook to a8, knight d3, knight 6 to d7, and now I played, he played knight b4, trying to go for this strong outpost square. If the bishop takes, the knight replaces it, and everyone knows how strong an outpost is. You're protected by a pawn, and you're protected by a pawn in the outpost, this square on d5, and there's no enemy pawns that could take you. So that's an outpost. That's the definition of an outpost. A5, I could have played a5 to prevent the knight b4 plan, but I wasn't thinking about my opponent's plans back in those days when I was only 14 years old and, you know, 1500 rated player. You don't realize what your opponent's up to until you're much stronger. So, but in this position, there's a cool line. If he takes this pawn, I might have dismissed it even if I did see this move. But I don't know what I was thinking because the memory is like 27 years old. But anyway, I had this line to attack the queen. Takes. I got my piece back, and his pawn's weak. And it's an unclear position. I think black should be doing fine. This pawn's a little weak, but white has more control of the center. So in the game, I did not play a5. I instead played knight 6 to d7, defending my pawn from Karpov's 2 attackers. I have now 3 defenders. So we have knight b4, fighting for this square, knight e6. I think I was more excited about knight f4 instead of knight d4. I don't remember the reason, but I think I was more excited about knight f4. I alertly took advantage of this rook move and chased it away from the c file. I guess I was thinking if it goes here, I was very happy to trap the rook. Karpov's rook is trapped here. I can't go to these squares because of my pieces. And yeah, that would be kind of cool, but Karpov went this way instead, and then I chased his knight away. He goes to the strong outpost, and I go back to trade bishops because this bishop is very annoying for me. And I think that was okay, and I take back with the knight. And Karpov proceeds with the typical, instead of having a strong pawn, he has a mighty knight outpost supported by the other knight. Connected knights is what they call it in the chess world. Queen d8, h5, black plays g5, and Karpov plays h6. I thought that would weaken his pawn, and it gave my knight a nice square, but it's what we call a thorn pawn these days. That's what is a trending term, and it could be very annoying because it's constantly restricting my king in the future. So a very advanced idea You would expect that from a player like Karpov. Knight g6 comes and bishop e5, and Karpov is just going to trade his bad bishop. It's on the same color as his pawns for my good bishop. And of course I don't take it because then I have no way to get rid of his knights, except it would be hard to get rid of his knights here. There's fork threats, all sorts of stuff. So I instead played I played knight back to trade off his powerful piece. Knight f6 check, and I don't remember if I saw the queen sacrifice. I do think I did see the queen sacrifice when I played this move, but I knew I had to lose my queen, but I felt like otherwise he would just crush me. So I saw this way out. So I remember I did see the queen, that I'm sacrificing my queen for a rook and a knight, which is a rook and a knight's 8 points, a queen's 9 points. So that's -1 point for me. However, I thought, okay, I'm only down 1 point. Everything's going to be fine. I'll be able to double rooks and control the d file is what I was probably thinking. But I missed this move. I'm fairly sure I missed this move where he's attacking both of my pawns. But I resiliently fought. I was very determined, and I had the chance to play a good game against Karpov. So I kept fighting. I brought my knight to this square, and queen took my pawn. Rook e6, only move really to fight, you know, trying to be resilient. I kept fighting and fighting. And I think even knight d5 was really strong for Karpov with this kind of pin and so forth. But Karpov just calmly trades more pieces, especially since he's in a Simul playing 22 other people. I played rook d4. I have no idea, but I think I was trying to help push my pawn and gain space on the queen side. I didn't see the checkmate idea that I had later. I don't think I saw that idea yet. But I was trying to grab space, just double rooks maybe, and yeah, and stop knight a4. Maybe more importantly, I actually was aware that Karpov could do this. So it's actually possible I saw Karpov's idea, even though I was only 1500 player. So Karpov plays g3, which stops my knight from going here. Well, I'm not very comfortable with this pin on my knight. Not very comfortable at all, so I play king f8. And it's important to get off this pin. Karpov plays a3, rook d3 comes, and then f4 and f5 fork is coming. So I take, he takes, and I have to take this pawn. And Karpov gave the pawn away, but it's okay. He chases my knight. He's about to play queen g7 check, attacking my king and the pawn, and it's going to be a difficult position for me. I play knight e5, the best square I could find. Queen g7 check, king e7. He takes the pawn. In 2 moves, he'll get a queen, and I'm lost. With the passed pawn and the leading material, white's winning. Luckily, I was very resourceful. I played rook e2, trying to get 2 piggies, as I call them, on the 7th. Rook here, this will give me some nice counterplay. And if rook blocks, I can check him and just keep trying to annoy him. I think it was at this moment I had seen probably the idea of getting 2 rooks down here and pushing the pawn here, stopping his king from coming out, and maybe with checkmate ideas. So I had some counterplay. Pawn check, Karpov goes king d6. I don't want to take here and let his queen get another check and get promotion. So I get out of the way of his queen. He plays rook c2. I come check. He goes here, and I play pawn here. Now this is where Karpov stood over the board, and if you look behind me, this is the exact position. Behind me is where Karpov was standing over the board, and he signed this. As you can see, his autograph up here. Karpov signed this, and this is me. This is him thinking for like 3 minutes. It felt like forever. And he finally sacrificed his queen to get out of the potential danger. There was a beautiful move, actually, that Karpov could have found here, and Lee the Chess and other engines. And I'll let you pause the video and try to find it. So congratulations if you were a chess genius and you found rook c4. And this move basically, if I play rook down to checkmate him, by pawn, and then the king's just gonna get out and run away from the attack. So congratulations for rook c4. Oh, of course, if knight takes, queen takes d3 check, and the king has to go this way, and well, there's no more checkmate threats, and this pawn's gonna get a queen. It's gonna be a happy day for white. But Karpov, luckily for me, played this desperado, and he sacrificed his queen. I didn't even see that move technically. It was a mistake, but I took back with the knight. He pinned me, and now I make an epic blunder. First, I think my blunder loses the game immediately. if I remember correctly. But I did some analysis of what I could have done to draw the game, and this should technically be a draw. I used Fritz 2 on a Windows 95 PC back in 1994, and it came up with the following line. Rook takes d3, rook h1 to stop the pawn. Rooks belong to behind passed pawns in the endgame usually. And then king over here. Rook c3, king takes pawn, and check out this line. This is not exactly what the best technique, but this is what the engine came up with. And black has to utilize his passed pawn to get a queen. Check, check, h7, f2, check, king f3, h8, queen. The computer, for some reason, Fritz just gives the queen away for no reason. But if that is the case, then this should be like a perpetual, and otherwise the pawn will get a queen. This rook d6 check would allow king e4 and rook d1. All of a sudden, white can barely hold this position. But there's a move, rook h3 check, and if white plays rook f6, there's a beautiful tactic that you'll see on chess.com and Elite Chess. In any kind of tactics books, you'll see this beautiful check, and you're going to build a bridge. Rook f3, and we don't have any more way to stop the pawn. If we trade rooks, the pawn will queen anyway, and if you go for the check, the rook cannot go back here because of the pawn. And so therefore, check, and then check here, and then finally here, and then the rook built the bridge to help the pawn get a queen, and again you can't go here because the pawn just takes it. So all this interesting stuff could have happened. It should have been a draw, basically, is the long story short. And I think there was a position here. King c7 was the move that this is another line that could have led to a draw. Let's see, yeah, another line that leads to a draw. And there's just an obvious draw. This is Leela chess with a high level technique, and black still has 2 pawns. According to Leela 0, this is the simplest way to equality, and I couldn't agree more. Anyway, in the game, I played rook e3 double question mark. Pause the video again and try to find how white wins. Okay, I hope you found h7. I have to stop that pawn, and it's too late. There is a attack. Can you find it? Pause the video. Okay, ready? And it's rook takes d3, diverting the double attack and diverting the rook away from the pawn. So if I take it, I resigned here, because if I take it, Karpov gets a queen. No match for the queen I get with my rook, and I gave up the fight here. I had this last chance to play here and possibly could still achieve a draw, but I think I analyzed this recently, and it turns out because white's defending these 2 pawns and there's a passed pawn on the outside, white should still easily win the game. But here I resigned immediately due to this double attack, and this is a very nice move by Karpov, and I just resigned. After the game, Karpov was very gracious and kind. I still remember in his Russian accent and him telling me something to the effect of, "You're very talented, but you need to work on your endgame." And finally, like the last year during COVID, I finally started working on my endgame. And my coach now tells me, Georgi, and I think Georgi Sibashvili, and I think John Bartholomew told me that my endgame is looking nice and strong. Now it's my endgame that I'm studying, and I need to polish my openings. So I did catch up on my endgame. Finally, listening to Karpov's advice 30 years later. Well, not 30 years, sorry. 41 minus 14, about 24 years later, finally listening to Karpov's advice. Or 23 years later. Anyway, this was definitely one of the best chess experiences of my life, and I'm glad I got to share it with you guys. If you enjoyed this game and the content here, please don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube, and follow me on Twitch. My username is ChessCoachJohn on Twitch. And you guys have a great rest of your morning or evening or lunchtime, and I'll see you at the next video.